Good afternoon. It's time to prepare for next week already. So to go over the action of the past 5 days and look ahead to next week, I want to start first of all with Bitcoin as it's approaching the target area of 1800, maybe 2000. That's been my target area for a while, but I actually want to say at the beginning that I'm not going to spend much time on the US dollar in this video. I want to look at what's tradable. The US dollar is both rather uncertain at the moment and maybe for that reason not tradable, but the setup for me isn't there. It's still kind of if and when, and um, certainty is missing. So I'm only going to deal with pairs that are offering good trade opportunities. So this may be a short video. I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but right now with Bitcoin, from the low that I found around 900, it's moved up in that what I'm viewing as a fifth wave overall of this entire segment from 200. Now, how I'm looking at it on the daily is that we're probably, despite there's a shooting star that closed on Friday. This is a 7-day market after all. Now, I'm viewing this as three waves so far. So I do think we have another high to come. Bit of a correction here for wave 4, you know how this is, quite steep sometimes. And then I'm looking for one more high towards 2000. 1800 is the number I had back at 900, so I'll stick with that. I don't think this is done yet, so I'm looking higher still. And once, well, if it does go higher, then I will consider whether this is a three-way move or we're going to have a bigger four for the ultimate move to something like 5,000 or 10,000 maybe. But for now, it's been working well. It's not quite doubled from the entry I found here, but not too far away from that either. I would just suggest having your stops quite tight. As you see, the 8 EMA that I mentioned 1,000 times in these videos is hugging price perfectly. So let's see how it carries on here. Still looking for a couple more gyrations up towards 1800. Okay, the big news is that US Canadian dollar may have found a high. I've been waiting for this high for over a year, since back here, so May 2016, 12 months ago. It's looking like we may have found the wave 2 high, just short of the 61.8 retracement level. Now, I think that for a number of reasons. First of all, on the 4 daily chart rather, it looks like this segment could be completed here. 3 waves here into W, 3-wave correction, and what looks like a 5-wave move here. So I would label this complete. We have a lot of divergence on the 4-hour chart, and I will certainly label it complete, or at least anticipate another move down once we see a 5-wave decline here and there's a correction to sell into. So right now I don't think 5 waves have completed from here, but let's see how it goes. Also on the weekly, the big issue here is that the weekly closed as a shooting star with a red bottom. That is an excellent candle, and probably a high is in place. It's looking likely. The issue here is that we have pronounced divergence here between the 2 price levels here and the stochastics here. Now that's bearish divergence. That is essentially the opposite of what we saw here on Euro New Zealand back in February. I've been tracking this pair since the beginning. We had bullish divergence here, and you can see what's happened since then. When you get bullish divergence on the weekly, it will run for several months. As you've seen, we've been from early February through to early May, where I think we'll have a bit of a correction now. And I'm anticipating the same type of move on US Canadian dollar. So if we have found the high, on a correction, I'm looking for this to decline for a number of months, ultimately below 125. So we're talking over a big move down in any case. Now on Euro New Zealand, when that happened, when it found a low, it wasn't so clear on the weekly candle, but it was clear on it was actually the 4-hour long ago, just to show you what the kind of thing that might happen. We had a 5-wave impulse right here, and then a really long correction, which went on and on. Maybe US Canadian won't emulate that really, and we'll have a shorter correction. But the point is, following the 5, there was a deep 3, and then the big move up that followed. Now, I'm anticipating something like that on US Canadian. I just want to see a 5-wave impulsive print on the downside, and then can look for some type of 3-wave correction up. It seems to be quite close to a 5-wave decline. Actually, I can't say how close it is right now. I mean, of course, on the 1 hour that looks like 5, but I don't think that's going to be complete. There will be more gyrations in that, I think. But ultimately, we have this week's high as our high print. And given the weekly close and the whole formation here, with more than enough swings finally to complete this. Initially it was here, but now this is going to be the number 1 pair to get short on over the next whenever. I will update these videos to try to follow it as I did on Euro New Zealand. Now we don't have divergence here on the daily. I cannot yet rule out another swing. I mean, this has been so complex over the past 12 months here that I cannot yet rule out, because it is another swing high until we get a 5 down print and a small correction. Because it is possible that we have W here, X, and this modulates into a further sequence where it's kind of like this, and one more high, for example. I can't rule that out yet, but I will rule that out once I see a 5 down and a print and a corrective sideways move. Now, sticking with Canadian pairs, the other Canadian, oh yeah, I also want to say that I think I mentioned in the video on Thursday that right now bullish sentiment in the Canadian dollar is very low. It's something like 28%. So that's the kind of thing you want to see for a reversal. Anything under 30 down to the teens, where it gets very extreme. When bullish sentiment is that low, it's time to kick in and look for, at least watch for a reversal and see if it kicks in. Now, what I was saying, I don't have matching bearish setups yet on the other Canadian pairs. Maybe on Aussie Canadian, but not yet on Euro Canadian. I went over this on Thursday's video, so I'll be brief. But since the leading diagonal broke, well, first of all, on the monthly, I'm looking for a bearish move down. But since the leading diagonal broke, this possible leading diagonal that was coming in here, since that's broken to the upside, I still prefer the idea of a flat overall, which implies a further wave 4 and then one more high. Maybe not taking out here, maybe extending a bit, but I like that idea more. I don't view this as a 5-wave move. I would view this as 5 waves here, but in my opinion, this extra gyration right here, it is out of proportion to this whole move. I like to have a kind of, to see a proportion between swings, and this big jut out here doesn't look right for this sequence, which seems more like one swing. Like, for example, this is a 5-wave move right here. I mean, if you look at the dynamics of this, you can see a clear 2 and a clear 4 within that swing. And here, it's on the 4 hour, or maybe even on the daily, you can see 5 here, but this second segment here looks like an individual wave. So I'm viewing that as a 3-wave move for now. I'll judge this as it turns on into next week, because probably we will see a down move. It'll be a question if that's an ultimate down move or a 4 for one more high, because the flat idea is pretty simple. 5-wave move for C of a flat. Flats are 335, remember? None of this whatever corrective flat sequence that you sometimes get with never mind. But in any case, 335 for a flat. So let's see how that develops. I don't think we're there yet. Yeah, this is a 5-wave. I can judge this as a 5-wave move. You see, and this extra bit over here is a bit too much. But anyway, not to beat a dead horse. If this does find a high here ultimately as a 3-wave move, I will adjust, but I want to see some definite print first. There's no print yet to give me an idea that Euro Canadian has found a high. Now, these things don't always line up. It's possible US Canadian dollar will decline first and get a good 1 and 2 waves in, and then start a big decline for wave 3 before Euro Canadian finds its high. For example, US Canadian can make a big wave 1 print and a wave 2 correction, and within US Canadian's wave 2 correction, Euro Canadian can find that ultimate wave 5 high and then start its decline, and US Canadian will be one swing ahead in wave 3 already. So they don't have to necessarily line up swing by swing or setup by setup exactly, or rather count by count, but the idea has to line up, and essentially they're in line here. I think the high's in US Canadian. I think we're close here. So going on to Aussie Canadian, to be brief on this too, I've been looking for the setup for quite a long while for ending diagonal. However, I'm doubtful on it now because we've had a 3-wave swing here, a new high this week, and a very, very, very strong reversal. So that implies this 3-wave swing here and the sharp reversal so far implies that it's a bearish correction off of this. So I might have to just accept that this is a 5-wave decline and that this here is our correction of that. And that's fine. I'll look for a print, a 5-wave print on this too, which I don't have yet. And then I would judge it from there and look for a sell setup. It is still possible it trades up higher. All these pairs, Euro Canadian, Aussie Canadian, New Zealand Canadian, look like they are capable of putting in another upward swing before completing. It's US Canadian that looks less likely to do that, but again, I can't rule it out yet. So Aussie Canadian, I would take it as it comes over the next week or so. If this idea doesn't emerge, I will look for sell opportunities on the shorter time frames, and I will try to post daily videos of that more regularly than I have over the past 2 weeks. Now, New Zealand Canadian, I was still looking for another upward swing. We'll take this as 3 waves here. I still like the idea of a corrective swing for one more high to get above here and then to turn over, but maybe that won't happen. The weekly doesn't look so terrible right now. And again, I don't have a bearish setup. This is more of a speculative pair because I don't have a bearish setup as such. This is 3 waves into here. The best bearish setup I can do on this probably is that we have 3 waves into here, an X wave, a leading diagonal for 1 of C, 3 waves for 2 of C, and now we see the decline for 3 of C, 4 of C, 5 of C, overall to make a kind of big 3-wave decline and then a turn higher again in this pair, eventually later into the low 800s. But I don't really view this as 5 waves. I don't see it. I don't want to force counts. I just want to take it as I see it naturally on whichever time frame, preferably on 4-hour daily and weekly. So that's the best bearish setup I can speculate on, and I will judge this like Aussie Canadian as it unfolds. My preferred view is that we've got 3 into here, we see another 3 up, and then a turn. So let's see what happens. All I want to stress is that it's looking like strength is coming back into the Canadian dollar finally. Bullish sentiment is low, and it's set up nicely for a reversal. Now, I have not been following pound Canadian since the debacle down here. I don't have a setup on this. I just think that we are in some kind of corrective sequence overall. I was targeting this area for a correction. It's exceeded that. The pound's had a good rally actually when I was thinking the opposite. So that's how it goes. But I don't have a view on this pair, frankly. So that is the Canadian group. Sticking with other pairs that have been working very well, Euro New Zealand. I do think we now have probably found a high for this segment of wave 1 of 3. It's looking like 5 waves into here. That's clear to see, so I won't go over that further. Well, there it is further. I think it's probably done here. So let's see a correction for, I won't speculate on time. Let's see a three-wave correction here. There is that gap as well, but I mean, if this is really as bullish as it's been, and I think we're in wave one of wave three, I just look for some type of three-wave correction. I don't want to speculate too much on a gap fill. This isn't stocks. I'm really not sure how this huge gap is going to be filled in forex, if it will be anytime soon. I just want to look for a three-wave correction here if it materializes. So Euro New Zealand probably corrective now. Euro Australian probably corrective too. I'm not honestly sure right now whether to view this as 5 waves or this as 5 overall, but I'm looking for a correction now and another bullish setup into this. That other low never happened and it's looking really good. So let's see if we can get a correction, a three-wave move of some kind, and something to buy into further. Yeah, but probably this is probably going to enter correction. This is looking like 5 waves right there. Maybe back for a retest, who knows, towards this level 143. Let's just see what happens. But in any case, those pairs, well, this one in particular has been working well. I had more trouble on Euro Canadian, but this has worked perfectly. And so we'll take it as it comes. Now, what has not been working perfectly is Aussie New Zealand. It was for a long while, and now it's doing a bit of a few more mysterious swirls and gyrations. So this, what I was looking at as a 5-wave impulse, is not so far materializing and is looking really weak. The downward swing is stronger than the upward swing. So to speculate on another correction, X wave, and maybe we'll get something like this. So that if that does materialize, that would be a correction of this. So basically, I'm going to stay bullish on this for a correction into here, maybe, who knows, if it does make a new low, correction of this. So I'm still looking higher in this pair. Now, yeah, it does open itself, now that we've reversed, it does open itself to this being a three-wave move. I don't want to say that that's a certain possibility. It's without question a possibility. So this is making it look more like 3 waves here, 3 waves here, and there is the possibility of 3 waves here. Now, I think that's much less likely right now than just a correction into here and another move up. But it is a possibility. So for now, I will stay bullish on this pair and look for another low to buy into for now. This was my favorite pair. Euro New Zealand took over a while ago, but it doesn't matter. It's still looking good for another upswing overall. It's just that obviously the fact this is just looking 3 wave-ish, like 3 waves, opens it up to being an X wave for a bigger correction down here overall. So also I want to stress that so long as this impulse remains valid, I want to stay bullish on this. And I do think it's more likely overall that this is just a correction of this. So I'll stay bullish into this, and even if we see 106, 105, and I'll look for buy setups following that. So it's a bit on the back burner now because probably this low is going to be broken. Probably a bounce first, but let's see how it goes over the next few days. The Canadian pairs are the most exciting right now, without question. So let me just see what else I want to look at. I'm not going to deal with all the pairs in the list here. Euro pound, I still favor a bearish move in this. It's again been wasting time in here. Maybe we'll see another upward swing. I don't have a setup right now, but I still favor a bearish move overall. I think we've broken a number of levels. I think this horizontal support here will be broken. I don't view this as a 3-wave move overall. I've been over that. I don't see it fitting into this. If you want to explain it to me, let me know. I'm happy to talk about anything. So I'm going to stick with a bearish view here overall, and that if this is a bearish swing here, it starts off as three waves and can follow with something else. That's all part of a correction possibly, but I'm not going to look for bullish setup right now in this. That's the thing. The euro's been pretty decent. It's been very strong against Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar, Canadian dollar too recently, but not against the pound. The pound's been doing quite well overall in the near term. Well, since October anyway. But eventually, this pair will probably regain its strength. If it does take on a more bearish view down to here, as I'm expecting right now, it will eventually regain its strength, I think, and take off again up north. So nothing on this pair, frankly. I just want to stick with where the opportunities are and what's been working in Canadian pairs and the other ones I mentioned. So US dollar, Japanese yen, I still don't have a count on this, but I definitely think a low is in here and it's been looking good. Now, it's looking quite bullish here. So the dollar in general has not been looking very good. So frankly, I don't have a view. I don't have a trade set up on this. So I'm just going to pass this by for now. No trade setup. It's just that it's looking very bullish. Keep in mind that the monthly closed as a hammer, and I made the long-term video that it's looking good for another swing up. The stocks are holding, so probably a push up, but I want to see a correction first before I can buy into anything. Well, as I've said since the beginning, I'm not trading gold. I just put this view on as an exercise, and it's looking like I haven't updated it. This is not, sorry, this is looking sloppy, but basically it's looking like this is a three-wave correction overall, and we probably have a further downswing below 1120 now. I don't know. I'm going to skip past this pair too. Let me go on to something that's more interesting. Briefly, US dollar. This is looking really precarious here. It's looking like it wants to puke. Now, sentiment on the US dollar is bullish sentiment is an embarrassing 20%. No one gives a toss about the dollar right now, and rightly so. The country's kind of messed up from what I can gather from a distance. So, looking at this, it's still in the middle of nowhere. There's no trade setup on it. I don't want to over speculate on it. I do want to say that sentiment is at an extreme and has the opportunity to turn, but we're not there. If we see this as an leading diagonal and a short three-wave correction into resistance with a sell opportunity, that's how I'm looking at it. I would suspect a bounce even on a break of this low. I would suspect we get a bounce somewhere. This is just guesswork. The bullish setup is in front of you as well. So again, you see this, there's nothing to do with the dollar right now. It's really looking precarious, and I can view this as completed. I've been over this. I do think this count is valid as 5 waves from April last year, and that would overall set this market up for wave 5 would be here. And we've got a bearish sequence. Now, there's a lot of monthly divergence here coming on, and as I've said about divergence, whichever time frame it appears on, it then continues on much stronger for much longer than that. I mean, we've had the weekly on Euro New Zealand for a while, which has lasted months. So monthly bearish divergence would last for years, probably. And that might sound ridiculous, but let's see. It's worked on the other pairs, so I'm not sure I've ever seen monthly bearish divergence. I've probably seen it, but never traded it. So in any case, if that's 5 waves now, it still has the opportunity. The violation, actually, this is looking too big. It is really looking bearish, but let's see how it goes. That's enough time on that. Euro, US dollar, it's looking bullish again. It hasn't broken out. No trade setup, skipping it. Okay, this is the pair I like more, Aussie, US dollar. I don't think or rather, I think we don't have a massive 5-wave sequence here. I think that given the bullish divergence here on against price, we're looking for a bounce. Now, I'm still looking for E of a triangle, but I would like to get in on this bounce. Now, there's a small daily hammer on the close. Is that big enough? We'll see on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday if that's big enough for to start E of the triangle. But I do like the idea that it's going to move up for E, and that I would guess that anyone who's short in this region will probably be spiked out on E of a triangle, because the idea is to put it something like that for E, and then a downward move overall. Now, the downward move may only break this low, like into this region, and reverse, or it may extend. I cannot say for certain. I don't really have a bigger count on this. Right now, I haven't put in the work. What I do want to say is that it remains bearish for now, despite that weird dollar, the weird look on the DX. This is the key impulse for me, and everything that followed this box segment has been corrective so far, in my opinion. So looking for E and then looking for down. But I'm definitely looking for a bounce. Now the issue again, as always, this is not as good a pair to trade right now as the Canadian dollars or the euro down unders, because again, if you have divergence, like daily divergence here, looking at something that can carry on for weeks. So there may be another view on this still. The monthly, it's all looking bearish overall. But again, keep in mind that if we do see that further low, like as I mentioned here, underneath A, and then a reversal up, that's absolutely in line and possible with the idea that this the stochastics here will eventually move up, because stochastics usually, once they start a move, they usually continue to the other side, to 80 or to 20, like here. They started the down move, it stalled out, and then it continued. And essentially I'm looking for the same thing here. It's the same on US dollar, Canadian dollar. They started the down move. Yeah, it's curling up right now, but we've been over this pair, and it's looking bearish overall, in my opinion. So I'm looking for this to turn down overall still. So something like that may appear on Aussie US dollar overall. But for now, let's see if we get a bounce for E overall, and then one more downswing. I still like it under 71, and then a turn higher. And New Zealand dollar, I'm still looking for a short-term bounce in this. I think that this whole sequence here is 3 waves. I mean, this is certainly 3, and this probably 2. So the whole thing together is one segment, and probably a correction up now towards 71 or so. I'm not trading this now. I kind of, as you probably noticed, I move in and out of pairs and lose interest in some after a while once the trade opportunities start to evaporate. I lost it after this exhausted itself, and so far it's done basically nothing the past few weeks, past month or so. So I'm not dealing with that very much. Now wheat. Now this trade setup is in danger of being broken. It's quite obvious. You can take a look at this without any data without any lines and numbers on the charts, and see it's quite obvious as a series of ending diagonals. The weekly has not broken out, but because it's not totally bearish, I'm suspecting it has a good upward swing in line. To put it another way, if the big players in the market, the big speculators, the big traders, if they want to power through this move on a breakout, it's in line to do so. it's got that look to it like it can break out here. I prefer the bearish view because the whole setup's there, but it's starting to look a bit too obvious, and it's not convincingly sold off from up here yet. So it is possible they can power this through. I've seen it happen before. So let's see over the weekend, or rather next week, what happens. And finally, Deutsche Bank from the low here, which I went over maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. When was this? Yeah, maybe about 3 weeks ago probably. It's moved up quite strongly, and it's looking like it's in the next segment for a move above 21. So that is my view there. Continued bullish swing in this. How high, I don't know, but a move above 21 is what I'm looking at right now. And I think that's it. So the big pairs for next week. I just want to have a look at this for a second. There's a big reversal on oil overall, and that kind of lines up with the Canadian dollar. But in any case, no view on that. The big moves may be starting next week, but if not soon after. The big pairs to deal with right now are the Canadian pairs. Now, the Euro New Zealand nailed the low here off of this. What happened here? My data went away. I think I might have reversed it. But in any case, nailed the low in Euro New Zealand. And I want to essentially work out the same type of swing here. I can't remember how I had this drawn right now, but in any case, nailed the low on Aussie New Zealand. I got this low, got it on Euro New Zealand, and there was another pair somewhere. I got the high on Aussie US dollar, but the reason I'm saying this is because now is the time to get the highs on US Canadian. These are the next pair, or Canadian pairs in general, but US Canadian in particular. I think these are the next pairs to really reverse hard. We've seen it in the other pairs, they've worked out well. So these are up next. And this is the plan, to nail the highs in these pairs. So any questions, let me know. Good luck to everyone, and I will post more regular updates. I would try to anyway, next week, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, bye-bye.